Hello, I'm Fast Lawyer with Oculus Rift Reviews, now with Windows Mixed Reality as well. Today we're going to do a review for GrowRilla VR, a game on the Steam store. Today was the official 1.0 release. It's available for all the major headsets. It normally retails for 15 bucks. I got a free Steam key through the Steam Curator Connect program to review this game. And GrowRilla is basically Rampage. Maybe some of you don't know what I'm talking about, but Rampage was one of my favorite games growing up. It's basically a monster destruction game. Godzilla, King Kong, and you just destroy everything in your path. The military comes and you just knock down planes, destroy tanks, all that good stuff. And that's basically all in this game. Well, there's no Godzilla, but who knows? Maybe they'll add it in the future. So yeah, this game is fun. You start off though as a little gorilla. So there's several of these type of games in VR. However, this one has a twist. Like I mentioned, you start off small. You're a little gorilla or little GrowRilla. And you have to sneak around at first because you can't take much damage and you're pretty small. So you have to sneak around and find food. Once you find food and you start eating it or find potions, you can start getting bigger. And the bigger you get, the easier it is to go against some of the other creatures around or actually defend yourself against the humans. You can pick up their weapons. So if they have like a shotgun, for example, and you're able to, take it away from them, you can actually use it against them. And obviously, once you get bigger, you can start picking up the humans and tossing them inside. Once you get even bigger, you can actually even start grabbing the tanks and toss them all around and destroy some of the buildings, climb up some of the really huge buildings. So this game can be fun, and I did definitely have fun during portions of this game. However, this game also has several negatives, and I'll get into that in a moment. A lot of the negatives had to do with bugs that I experienced. This is the official 1.0 release, so I was hoping it'd be less bug-free than it was, but I did experience several little bugs. Nothing that I would call game-breaking, although I did have to restart one of the levels for one of the bugs I experienced, so maybe that's close to game-breaking. So this is a fun game, but with some problems. So the first thing is the locomotion. So this is an arm swing locomotion type game, and you press triggers to basically pull yourself forward, and that's how you move around the world. Now you do have snap turning, but there is no smooth turning at all in this game. There are some graphical options. I was running this on medium, so good on that. However, I found the menu UI or the UI in general for this game to be less than stellar. It was pretty basic, and there honestly weren't very many options, but at least it has graphical options in here so that it can run as smoothly as possible on as many rigs as possible. Another thing that I wasn't a big fan of was the overall physics. Now, the physics weren't terrible. They could have just been better. So for some things, I did enjoy the physics, but for a lot of other things, it just wasn't very fun. So probably the least fun is when you're beating down on some of the creatures to eat them. It just never felt all that great. Obviously, when you can pick them up and eat them, it's no big deal. But for some of the bigger animals, especially when you're small and you're basically trying to, kill them to eat them, it's just not very pleasant. Basically you just swipe your hand down on them, like, and it doesn't really matter how or what, and just the physics didn't feel good at all. I also clipped through several objects. The climbing in this game wasn't very good. It's very rough there, and I just expected a more polished experience, especially for a 1.0 release. Now, you can pick up guns and weapons. You can pick up bazookas, shotguns, assault rifles, and that's fun. Unfortunately, the weapon mechanics just are pretty basic and not all that great. It's actually not that much fun. Even to pick up a bazooka wasn't all that much fun, just because the overall weapon mechanics are poor. Now, there you see my hand glitching out. So there are some collision detection issues. Now, when you're small, basically you collide against everything. And once you get bigger, when you collide against the objects, you can actually like swipe them away and break them down. So that's good. I like that part of the physics. But unfortunately, there were just a lot of little glitches along the way that made it not so great, especially clipping through certain objects or just weapons being knocked out of your hand because you collided against a tree even when you're big. There's a lot of polish that could still be part of this game to make it a better overall experience. Now, the gameplay loop is fun, but it does get repetitive. So the good thing is, as you go along, it generally gets more difficult. The bad thing is, this game mentions different modes, and sure, different enemies, different creatures are introduced, and that keeps it kind of interesting. But the core gameplay loop really doesn't change. And what's more, the difference between the campaign and the arcade and the free mode just really aren't there. The main difference I noticed from the campaign or the free mode is just basically with free mode you can pick the difficulty of the level that you want, which is versus campaign where you just start off easy until you finish it all the way at the hardest difficulty, and if you don't finish you just have to start from the very beginning, which is different than the free mode that you can just pick whatever level you've unlocked and start from there. But that's really the only difference. The gameplay is pretty much the same. So at the end of the day, there just wasn't enough difference there to make the different modes more fun. And I could think of several variations that would have made this game a little bit more fun, give it a little bit more depth. And while it does have more depth than other of these Rampage type games, there just wasn't enough depth here. But it is fun for what it is. This is one of those games that you can easily get into. And, you know, this is one of those games where you can play for 15-30 minutes. You know, you can even get a nice sweat going. After like an hour, I did start getting almost sweaty. Not quite, but almost. So you do get a nice workout from this game. But there just isn't long-term value here. This is not a game that you'll play for several hours in a row, just because, like I mentioned, the gameplay is a bit repetitive, although it does get challenging towards the end of the levels. So towards the end of the campaign, it really gets here with you have all those soldiers and they're all throwing rocket launchers at you, and you have the jet fighter trying to get you and the different tanks rolling around. It can get challenging, but there's just not a whole lot of depth to the gameplay. Basically, you just run away, you try to heal, and then you come right back and try to take them out one at a time versus being surrounded by a bunch of enemies. That's basically the strategy here, and that never changes, and not enough variation is introduced to make it an even more fun experience. I would like to have, for example, gone against Godzilla or something exciting like that. It just never happens in this game. Overall, if I have to rate this game, I would give it a 6 out of 10. It is fun. I did enjoy it, but I'm concerned there just really isn't enough long-term value, especially for the normal retail price of $15, and it definitely needs more polished. I experienced several bugs. One of the bugs was that the enemy objective that I needed to get to spawned in the water, and there was no way for me to get there because once you get into the water you automatically drown. So basically I destroyed everything in the island, but I couldn't get to my objective, and once I tried I just drowned. So, and I've noticed enemies floating in the air as well. Just a lot of little bugs. Anyways, I'm Fast Lawyer. I'm with Oculus Rift Reviews. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.